Our next inductees come from a prolific era in BC skating. Much to do with the great leadership and coaching of one of our Hall of Fame coaches, Dr. Helmut May, along with a terrific group of volunteers that ran an exciting and productive competitive skating club at the Kerrisdale Arena. Both Faye Strutt and Jimmie Waters were products of that club at the time.
Faye was an accomplished single skater, and at the age of 12, won the BC Sectional Championships Novice Ladies. And Jim, well, he had a passion for pair skating and was partnered at that time with Wendy Warren, who he skated with for a number of years. Wendy and Jim were Dr. May's first pair team, so there was much to be learned by all.
As happens with young dancer pair teams, one may outgrow the other, which was the situation with Wendy. So Dr. May looked for another partner in his club. And, well, there was this little blonde young lady who he thought might be just the right match for Jim.
In 1963, Faye, then 15, Jimmie, 17, were matched to skate pair together. This was the second team that Dr. May taught, and, well, he didn't really plan for much except to get them started and see where it all ended up.
However, it was the Olympic year, and unlike today where the Olympic team is determined at the national championships, there were Olympic trials held in Toronto that fall. Two very influential volunteer leaders of the day, June Pinkerton and Skate Canada President Billy Mitchell, suggested that Faye and Jim go to Toronto and try out for the Olympics.
Well, Dr. May thought that was kind of ridiculous for such a rookie team, and in fact felt that they should not spend the money on him attending. So off they went to get their first competitive experience as a team without a coach.
However, Jimmie's mother went and she stood by the boards with them. Now imagine that in today's competition, skaters. Having mom or dad with you at the boards, I think there's a whole new reality TV show out there waiting to happen.
Also, remember the programs in those days were 5 minutes long. Difficult to skate for sure, but also difficult to watch, especially for those watching a guy like me for 5 minutes. That was brutal. Faye and Jim had only skated together for 6 weeks and only ran the 5-minute program twice before going to the Olympic trials.
Don't try it, kids. Don't try it.
Yeah, don't try that.
Fortunately, both were very strong single skaters and both were in great shape. And as just a point of interest, on the day of the trials, Faye was at the hairdresser's working on a fabulous coif. We're thinking you were inspired by Mark Simpson.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But you must have been proud
Solid,
of it.
you know.
But unfortunately, a defining time in world history was happening, and as Faye reported, she noticed quite a disturbance going on in the salon. The date was November 22nd, 1963. People looked in shock, and when she asked what was wrong, they said it was just announced on the radio. The President John F. Kennedy had been shot.
Well, many of us here of a certain vintage all remember where we were and what we were doing at that moment. Life had to go on, for sure, but it was such a shock to everyone. Faye kept to plan and focus and went to the rink to compete with Jim. And people there were in tears, and some of them decided to not even compete.
That day, Faye and Jimmie skated beyond what most expected. They rose to the occasion and surprised many, even themselves, with a third-place finish and a spot on the 1964 Canadian Olympic team. One of the presenters that day was the one and only Barbara Ann Scott. What a thrill.
So, after 6 weeks of skating together, they qualified for the Olympics. And now they had 2 months to prepare for the Canadian Championships and 1 more month to prepare for Olympics. Maybe it was one of the few times that left Dr. May speechless.
Innsbruck, Austria, 1964 was the home for the Winter Olympics. The Canadian team was outfitted in the newest fashion, all full of excitement and anticipation in their Hudson Bay coats with matching handbags. I love them. We got to bring those back.
Faye is on the right. There she is. And here's a look at the ladies' Eskimo-type coats and red ski pants. Faye, as I said, is the second to the right. They had sealskin boots. And finally, a look at the whole figure skating team. Quite a different style compared to now. Very classic indeed. And here's a look at the practice sessions. We're on an outdoor rink. And as we see here, Faye and Jim enjoying the outdoor ambience and the intrigue of international sport. There's Faye. Pretty cold that day. There, we can see the hair. It's solid. And there's Jimmie doing his spin. What remarkable footage.
And you also saw a skater from Russia, the old Soviet Union, CCP. It was kind of an open free skate for all disciplines outdoors in the cold. In the competition, Faye and Jim had to skate right after the eventual winners, Ludmila and Oleg Protopopov. And after only 3 months of skating together, placed a very credible 14th at the Olympic Games.
Well, what a time. What a time. Faye and Jim skated to the William Tell Overture, which was at the time the music theme for the TV show called The Lone Ranger. And as they started their run-through in the indoor rink, Faye and Jim both heard a maintenance man in the stands yell out, "Hi-ho, Silver!" Now, again, only the white-haired people in this room will know that joke.
As mentioned by Faye and Jim, their experience opened their eyes to the rest of the world, and they gained confidence and self-esteem previously not found.
And look at this great footage. They went up to the top of the mountain after the competition. It's very cold. The men are wearing the hats. There's Faye waving. A little snowball fight there going on. There's Debbie Wilkes behind her with the sunglasses. The men are a little cold. Too bad for them. But meanwhile, the wind is blowing Debbie's hair, but Faye, not a movement. I don't know how you did that, Faye, but I can tell you, I could use some of that. 3 or 4 hairs doesn't do it. Look, it showed them that no matter where you lived, no matter which language you spoke, that sport, and in this case, figure skating, was the great equalizer amongst men and women, and that the passion and effort was born true and pure to all. After their skating career, Jim judged for a number of years before retiring, and as many of you know here tonight, Faye has taught for generations and coached and guided many of our skaters and generations of young BC skaters throughout their career.
Tonight, we celebrate your fascinating and unique journey in skating to an Olympic experience and all that you have given since. Ladies and gentlemen, it is our honor to welcome into the Skate Canada BC Hall of Fame, Faye Strutt and Jim Waters.
Where's the rest of the hair? Faye, it's a Faye, your script. Faye, your glasses.
They match. Matchy, matchy. Okay, Jimmie wanted me to do this because he said I have the gift of gab, but that's only after. Okay. Jim and I want to thank you all for being here tonight, supporting the BC Yukon section of Skate Canada. Congratulations to our deserving fellow inductees. Thank you to friends who suggested us for this honor and the nominating committee who selected us from many in our sport. It is a privilege to be included in the distinguished membership of the BC Sports Hall of Fame. Don't let all these pages scare you. The printing's enormous so we can see it. Are you
I'll bet.
crying?
Yes.
Don't cry.
Did I mention she was bossy?
No, I just had a bit of a temper. I take up golf now. You've already heard what a short time Jimmie and I worked together to end up competing at this ultimate sports competition in the world. And the time frame required a crazy schedule, lots of ice lift work, off ice lift work, many on ice back outside death spirals. My right arm is longer than my left. We had so much support and encouragement from fellow skaters and their parents, judges, volunteers, club officials, and even arena staff. Some of them had to pick me up after a temper tantrum, but I'm not talking about that. Skating at this level was not in my family's budget. My parents scrimped and saved and did without to give me the opportunity to pursue the sport I was so passionate about. Clearly, your postal code doesn't define who you are. Jimmie's parents, Ina and Charlie, welcomed me into their home so that we could be on call quickly for any extra ice time that came up. I transferred to Jim's high school for its proximity to our rink. Thanks to Jim's sister, Charlene, for sharing her room. Our parents loved and encouraged us and were always there to support us, leaving the skating stuff to the experts. Dr. Helmut May was very generous with his lessons, spending as much time as he could, and most certainly not posting everything to our bills. His wife at the time, Doris, designed and sewed beautiful competition outfits for us. You may not think so from the photos. I still have 2 dresses in perfect condition that fit.
I got you. You got to remember in those days when the men had their outfits, they were tuxedos. Tuxedos were very thick wool. So could you imagine skating a 5-minute program in wool that doesn't stretch? And her arms are getting longer. Her hair is white. That's from the outside death spin, by the way. It had to be white coming out off the ice, or it was no good. Isn't that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
So, I also have several pieces of my Olympic wardrobe, which still fit, and no moth holes either. And Jimmie was going to
No
say,
hair.
yeah, right. I can't get in. He goes, I can't get into any of my Olympic gear. Okay, fine. Okay, well, sometimes Jim and I can't remember what we did yesterday. The Olympic experience is very clear. Our journey was an incredibly magical time in our lives. Our practices sometimes were outdoors, as you saw. Brr. The Canadian pairs practiced with the Russians. Yikes. So after only 6 months together, we skated pretty well and felt truly inspired by our experience. Now, the pairs event was on pretty early in the schedule of the Olympics, and it allowed us to watch a number of other Olympic events. Wow, the talent in the world. Speaking of talent and a little name dropping, we had a memorable dinner with the world-renowned Protopopovs with their Secret Service people hanging around.
They were always 20 feet behind us. So.
Yes. Through the years, Jim and I have been involved in figure skating locally, provincially, nationally, and internationally. And we've known many amazing, talented, dedicated, and generous people. A lot of them are in this room tonight, including our family and lifetime friends who are our table mates. Now, I just want to say skating was my university education. Can you imagine the thrill of being involved in a sport you love for decades? This evening's event has reconnected me with my super duper partner. We want to say thanks to our parents, Madeline and Grant Strutt, and Ina and Charlie Waters. I'm sure they're smiling proudly. What an opportunity this is for us to stand here and thank everyone personally. We hope all our parents here tonight will continue to give their children the chance to pursue their dreams as ours did. Finally, thank you, Tracy and Ted and your wonderful staff and crew for this terrific evening.
Thank you. I'd just like to take 2 minutes here to thank my support table over there. There's 14 of us that have never been together all at once, except for tonight. So we'd like to.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, that's beautiful. The sport means so much to us all, and it couldn't be said better from their experiences. And many of you young skaters are on their journey just like theirs. It will be a lot of fun to watch you and to follow you along your journey in life and in our sport.